So, when watching the British Grand Prix this year, many of us will have got flashbacks of Abu Dhabi 2021. Now, I'm not saying that the British Grand Prix was scripted in quite the same way that Abu Dhabi 2021 was. Now, and let's be clear about the phrase scripted. Okay, you cannot script a sporting event, but what you can do, you can contrive it. You can have in something like Formula One, it can follow a skeleton framework for the kind of things that can be contrived within the event. That is possible. Okay. Now, I'm not saying it is exactly the same as Abu Dhabi 2021, such as the controversy on lap one, the tyre narrative of the pit stop strategies, and then Lewis Hamilton coming out behind the Mexican Minister of Defence, the virtual safety car period, the tyre twist crofty with the slow puncture, and then the safety car situation causing all of the advantages to be wiped out to set up a last lap shootout. Now, obviously, the British Grand Prix didn't contain all of them, but it contained quite a few. So let's have a look which of those it contained. Now, this first bit of footage, it's going to be tortuous to watch and listen to, but I will need to slow it down to demonstrate to you what's going on. And obviously the audio is going to be with it. So just watch this.
Lights out and away we go for the British.
So we can see that Lewis Hamilton's got the jump start on everybody. He got a 5-second advantage, so it's only right that he got a 5-second penalty there.
Grand Prix Charlotte.
So we've got here a racing bull. Okay, the Red Bull B team. Whether the car in front of him, which I think was a Red Bull car, whether it was suffering its usual problem of getting bogged down at the start, because we know that that's just a problem that one of the Red Bull cars has. The other one's fine, but one of the Red Bull cars, they've got a problem with the car there. So I think this Red Bull car that's in front of the Racing Bull, because the B team doesn't have the same problems. 3 of the Red Bull cars don't have a problem, but one of the Red Bull cars has a problem with starting. Anyway, so the Racing Bull's got a better start, so it looks to try and make a manoeuvre around the outside. And the rules are, if you get part of your car alongside, so even if you get your front wing alongside the car in front of you, they've got to leave you room. If a car is fully behind you, you can move across in front of it to form a blocking manoeuvre, providing it's not an erratic manoeuvre having to make that car take significant evasive action. That's what the rules are. Okay, you can defend your position by moving across in front of a car that's seeking to overtake you, providing they're fully behind. But as the moment that they get a part of their car alongside yours, you're moving into the space that they're now entitled to. You're moving into the line where their car already is. So you're not allowed to do that. And obviously, if somebody moves into the line where your car is entitled to be, you've got 2 choices. You either stay there on that line and there's a crash, or if you can, take evasive action so that you're not crashed out of the race. So the Red Bull B team driver's taking evasive action. I don't know who it is that's not leaving him a car's width on the track there. One of those main Red Bull drivers is not leaving the Red Bull B team driver a car's width on the track, forcing them off the track. That's called crowding another car off the track. I mean, Formula One rules these days is, he's on the track there. Well, he's on the grass there. Okay, we're not doing grass track karting here, lads. All right, you've got to leave them a car's width inside this white line. That's what the track is, lad. That's what the track is. The track, the bit that's like in between the white lines, and they'll say that actually the white lines will classify as being in the track, but clearly there is not room between this car and the outside of this white line for the whole of that car to be in. So by doing so, you're crowding it off the track. Don't worry about that bit. Now, what we would normally get when we get replays of the show is the full overhead aerial of the start grid. They don't do that here. They don't. They want to hide information. We only get to see what they want us to see, and if there's anything incriminating, they're not going to show us. So what we saw there's a little bit of a jink. He's covered off the guy on his outside. Now he's trying to just scare the guy on his inside. So force this guy off here. Now he's got cars coming up the inside, attacking on the inside. So try and squeeze them. This car's now, we're around about the braking zone. This guy, is he fully alongside? Is he fully not? Knowing that Max has got a, well, it's 4 into 1. Does 4 into 1 go around the corner? Let's have a look. Well, oh, we just missed it, didn't we? They just chopped the footage off just as we were about to see something, but we didn't see it. So here, what's going on now? We've got the second of the Red Bull cars, not the second of the Red Bull cars. That must be Hadjar. Must be Hadjar if it's the second of the Red Bull cars, because clearly the first of the Red Bull cars has to be the best you've ever seen. So he can't be beaten by a teammate. So we've now got the second of the Red Bull cars. But then we can't see whether that's been run out of track room or not. Now, that is borderline touch and go. Was the car on the outside entitled to be left track room on the outside of the corner? No, because they'd not made it fully alongside. But that being said, it's lap 1, turn 1. Okay, it's frenetic. That everybody is trying to be aware of everybody else. Okay, 4 cars into 1s, but that doesn't mean you can be throwing your car around and forcing other cars off. All right, so this is something the sport needs to deal with.
Going through the first corner, Charles Leclerc leads from Hamilton, and today they comes Russell.
Okay, so lap 1, turn 1 incidents, they're always treated a certain way. If you get a bit of jostling around like that, the stewards often overlook them because all them cars are coming into the first corner at speed. So, you know, you get these situations where cars have to take evasive action to avoid collisions. But that was lap 1, turn 1. That was back over here. They've come round here. They've come round here. This is about turn 3 now, is it not? All right. So we're no longer at lap 1, turn 1. What's going on here? Right, we're coming round this corner. Let's go back a little bit. What have we got going on? We've got the first of the Red Bull cars. I'm assuming because it's the lead Red Bull car, that one must be Verstappen. The second of the Red Bull cars can't be Verstappen, can it? Because Supermax is the best you've ever seen. We're coming into this corner as being attacked by the Racing Bull. Okay, has the Racing Bull entitled to track room on exit of this corner? Okay, has he made it fully alongside? Well, not at that point there. Can we take it back any further? Let's take it back a bit further to see who's entitled to what track room around here. So focus not on the 2 Ferraris at the front, not on the Mercedes in third, not on the Mercedes in fourth, not on Supermax. Is that Supermax or is it Hadjar? It's got to be Supermax, surely. It can't be. It can't be Hadjar. Hadjar can't be beating Max. So the Red Bull there, we're not so worried about them. Let's go back a little bit. Look at what's just coming into view. The Racing Bull trying to challenge the Red Bull. Okay, back here. I mean, what you've got here, you've got a Red Bull trying to attack a Mercedes. In fact, what we'll do first, we'll have a look at what this Red Bull and the Mercedes, what happens here between the car on the outside and the car on the inside going around this corner. Let's see if they're able to make it around the corner within track limits and leave each other track room. So we'll focus on George Russell and we'll see if that was Max first of all. Let's have a look. Oh, that's Hadjar. How is Hadjar ahead of Max? So we've switched angle again. So Russell, Hadjar. Okay, what Russell does, he does leave some room. Okay, doesn't leave a full car's width, but he didn't have to. And the reason he didn't have to is because Hadjar hadn't made him fully, hadn't been fully alongside him on entry to that corner. So he wasn't entitled to a car's width, but Russell still left him some room to be there. Okay, so that was the situation between this Mercedes and this Red Bull. Just go back. So coming round there, we're looking at the Mercedes and the Red Bull there. Okay, so Russell has he's left him enough room. There's no contact. There's no problem there. Okay, so back we go. Back we go. Where are we going? Back one more. Coming into view. Coming into view now. Racing Bull. Red Bull. So this Red Bull must be Max Verstappen. I got it wrong. Sorry. Happy to admit when I got something wrong. Because I mean, you know, we know that normally it's Max that has to be the one that's out the front and running away because he's so fast, such as his driving skill. It's only when the Red Bull can't get off the line that there's ever a problem. And it's a problem, obviously, with the car there. That's the problem. So there's the Red Bull. Here's the Racing Bull. You know, the two teams by the same owner. You know, they can't collude with one another to you know, give the advantage to somebody, can they? And you know, when one team commits a foul against the other, rather than the stewards make an assessment of the foul, both teams can go and protest to the stewards. Oh no, we're happy just for that to be a racing incident. No penalties for anybody, no penalties for everybody. So there's no problem here. And all of the other teams, they don't protest about that dynamic that affects their sporting chances and affects their ability to win prize money. You know, the CEOs of the other teams who are responsible for returning a maximal amount of money to their shareholders, they're not looking at that dynamic and going, well, that's something that could impact the amount of money that this team earns and therefore can impact the return to the shareholders. Therefore, the CEOs of these teams aren't doing their job by being complicit with that dynamic. But no, they are doing their job because actually they make more money by exciting the kiddies and allowing it. Okay, turning a blind eye to all the things that are wrong and focusing on the excitement because that makes more money for the shareholders. So the CEOs will look at it from that perspective. That's fine. Don't you go worrying your little head. Anyway, sorry, that was an aside. That's getting political about sport and nobody wants that. So let's go back into the exciting action. It's fast and it's furious. So B team car trying to overtake the A team car around the outside. Has it earned itself track room? It's not fully alongside, so the B team car you'd think has to yield, wouldn't you? We're looking at this bit here, all right, where I'm waving cursor. You'd think the B team car on the outside, not quite fully alongside. But what we see, like we saw at Monza 2021, the car on the outside just tries to fuck it in there anyway. Okay, that's what you get when you don't leave the space. You know, you're behind at the braking zone, but you still feel entitled, so you still fuck it in there, and this is what you get when you don't leave space. So we're switching camera angles. You see here, from here, it does look like they're still racing to the apex. Okay, they're still racing to the apex to decide who has track room. Now Max isn't hitting the apex here. Okay, Max is still driving across the track. Where are we assessing the race to the apex here? I mean, there's the apex, and if you don't hit the apex, then you're going to kill somebody. You know, Jenson Button told us that after Silverstone, because had Lewis have hit the apex, you know, he got hit before the apex and had to deviate his steering wheel, dragging him away from the apex to cope with being hit. But had Lewis have hit the apex, it would have been a racing incident. But because Lewis didn't hit the apex, Lewis was to blame. Max isn't hitting the apex. Where's Max going? I mean, you're supposed to be going around the corner here. You're supposed to be going around the corner, and he's actually driving across here in a straight line. How are we going to assess who's going to win the race to the apex if they're not racing to the apex and we're instead racing across the track? What's going on there? Apex is about here, lads. We're not racing there. We're disappearing off on a diagonal. What's going on? All the other cars are coming around here. Why are you fucking across there, lads? What's going on? I mean, you can see everybody wants to come around a corner. We're going around a corner. Right, see all these cars want to come around here. Max just wants to head straight towards us. Everybody else wants to go around here where the red car is. And Max, I mean, where this cameraman is, he's at risk because Max is going to drive his car straight at him. No, Max, the track goes around the corner, lad. It goes around the corner. You can see. Look at where Max... He's heading over here. No, Max, no, go round. Steer a bit, mate. Steer a bit. So, again, we picked it up back here again. I mean, these will come round the corner. What's going on over here? I mean, it's a bit blurry because it's all going on over there, isn't it? It's all going on over there. Let's try and zoom in. Oh, Max has driven off the track. Max has got a car on his outside and he's driven off the track. Max carries so much extra speed that it's understeer, understeer, understeer. No. What's happened there is, on entry to this corner, you know, the braking zone, where the car on the outside is trying to get itself into a position to be able to be afforded track room, Max won't let that happen by keeping on the gas. He's travelling at a speed that won't allow him to make it around the corner on that line. Therefore, he's driving dangerously. Okay, he's determined not to allow anybody to try to pass him, so he carries extra speed, forcing the issue, won't allow them to be in top of track room, and that extra speed means he forces himself off the track as well because he can't keep control of the car to keep it on the track. That's dangerous driving. That's called driving another car off the track. That's driving in a dangerous and erratic manner, not in control of your car because you've driven it off the track. That's at least a 5-second penalty. Now, what does this mean? It means, see these cars behind, right? These cars behind, they're in the race with Max Verstappen. At the moment, they're in the race behind with Max Verstappen. And they will want to challenge Max. The reason they've not been able to challenge Max is because as you go around a track, you've got to slow your car appropriately to make it around the track. Now, if somebody doesn't slow their car appropriately because they're carrying too much speed and don't stay on the track, well, because they carry the extra speed, you don't catch them because they're going so fast, right? And so you don't catch them. And so, well, I can't catch them because they're travelling faster, but they're travelling too fast because they can't stay on the track. And they can't stay on the track, but then they're staying ahead of you. Yeah, but they're breaking the rules because they're not staying on the track. They're going too fast. They can't stay on the track. And that's the only reason they're staying ahead of you. And you can't make the overtake. See, the other cars make it around on the track. So back here though, Max drives Arvid Lindblad off the track, crowds him off the track, makes him have to once again take evasive action to avoid a collision. You know, there's a lot of drivers in the show. They recognise the notion of teamwork, in as much that whilst they will want to try and beat each other and compete with each other, a lot of the time they recognise the dynamic of the teams need to be successful and achieve as many points as possible for the team. So don't take your teammate out or your B teammates out, because then B teammates, they will work for you as well to normally let you by and block everybody else as hard as they can to give you the advantage. So they're a teammate, they work for you, so don't fuck them off the track like this, Max. No I in team, Max. No I in team. But there is one in Israel. There is an I in Israel, Max. Anyway, so how's Crofty describing this? Now, by Max infringing there and going off the track, he's been able to keep position. Now, I can't think of a Grand Prix where on lap one, right, a car left the track and was able to keep position. Now, sometimes it's valid that you can leave the track to avoid a collision, okay? And if you leave the track to avoid a collision because somebody's chucked it at you, then by you leaving the track to avoid the collision, you've not done anything wrong. I mean, like there, Arvid Lindblad didn't do anything wrong, did he? You know, Arvid Lindblad, he's taken evasive action, hasn't he? Now, it turns out on this occasion, assessing whether he was entitled to track room is difficult, because although it looks like he wasn't fully alongside on entry to this corner, it very much looks, it's evident that Max was carrying so much extra speed into this corner. Max was travelling too fast into this corner to keep it on the track. So the offence here is that the driver that's on the inside is travelling too fast into the corner to be able to be in control of his vehicle and keep it on the track. Now, Abu Dhabi 2021, there was a car on the inside that was travelling too fast to do the right thing at that corner, to keep his car on the track and keep a car's width on his outside for the other car to be in. So the other car had to take evasive action to avoid being hit and taken out of the race at Abu Dhabi. Here, the car on the outside is having to take evasive action to again avoid being hit, because the car on the inside is travelling too fast into the corner to abide by the rules of engagement of the sport. This time he's committing infringement by going off the track himself. What that's doing is, by travelling too fast into the corner, it's enabling him to keep ahead of these cars here. So what Max has done here, Max has committed an infringement of travelling too fast into a corner, out of control, can't keep his car on the track, and that has enabled him to stay ahead of the cars behind. Because had Max been travelling appropriately at this corner, keeping his car on the track, then he would have been slower into the corner to do that, and that might have given an opportunity to a car on the inside there. Max hasn't done that. Okay, so these cars are behind Max, but that's only because he's gone too fast into a corner. And when you go too fast, obviously, clearly you go ahead of the. Well, you extend away from those cars behind, and so there is no overtaking opportunity. But you've done that illegally because you couldn't keep in control of your car by travelling at that speed, and you've gone off the track. So what we've got here is a driver that has carried so much extra speed, he's understeer. They like to call it understeer. Okay, understeer is where you steer your car at a particular angle, and if you're travelling at the appropriate speed, your car tracks the line that you're steering at. So if you put in the correct steering angle to make it around this corner at the appropriate speed, your car comes around this corner at the appropriate speed. Now, if you put that same steering angle in but are going far too fast, the car won't stick to that line that would come around the corner. The speed of your car will actually, the momentum of your car will make it travel much wider, okay? And it won't make the corner, it'll go off the track. And Karoon will educate the kiddies to say, oh, that's understeer. That's the car understeering, not steering as much as it needs to. Yeah, but there's a reason for that. It's because you're going too fast. The momentum of your car, okay, is going to swing the car out over here because you're carrying too much speed. You're not in control. Okay, taking corners is a combination of a few things. Okay, it's a combination of your steering input, your speed, and your grip level, right? And they all have to be appropriate, because if you don't steer enough, you don't go round the corner. If you're going too fast, the momentum of your car is going to want to keep you going on in a straight line. If the grip level's not enough, the car won't grip to make the line that you're trying to go on. All these things are a factor. It's not just, oh, the car is not going around the curve that you're trying to steer it on, so that's the car's fault, that the car is suffering from understeer. No, that's the driver fault. That's a driver issue of not being able to match his inputs to what the car needs to do. Funny that. But it's not Max's inputs, because Max is the genius. He's the best we've ever seen. Anyway, let's just listen to what Crofty says.
Who has to go wide? Max Verstappen keeps him at bay. Lando Norris.
Oh yes, Arvid Lindblad has to go wide because Max keeps him at bay. What else did he say? Did he say? Because I know he does say Max goes in deep.
Start from Lindblad, who has to go wide. Max Verstappen.
So Arvid Lindblad here has to go wide.
Keeps him at bay.
And that keeps him at bay.
Lando Norris has lost places as Russell and Hadjar squabbling away
Russell and Hadjar having a squabble, not a motor race.
through the loop. And then Anthony already got the job.
All right, Martin. All right. You shouldn't still be broadcasting if it's just incoherent drivel that comes out of your mouth. There was something where they did say Max goes in deep there.
George Russell on his tail. They don't really want to use too much battery power.
Well, I'll find that, and I might give you the example of that in a future video. But it did remind me of a certain situation. Okay, that certain situation was this. Now, this was another situation where that one Red Bull car had an issue. Okay, sadly, it's the engineering issue that we have with the Red Bull. Just one of the cars. Okay, just one of those Red Bull cars. There's always a problem with it. There's always a problem with the Red Bull car. I mean, usually because he's the best we've ever seen. Okay, Max can overcome everything because but this one particular car, there is always one problem or another with it. I mean, this time, for the second week running, there's been a malfunction with the, what do they call it? The Macarena. Hey, Macarena, the wing. at the back. That has caused Max Verstappen to end up in the gravel because I think the drinks company can't engineer the Macarena wing appropriately, and that then works as it doesn't work as it should, and because of that, Max loses control of his car. I mean, over in Austria, he like drove over the curb, and the curb, and when you drive over a curb, that can put you into a spin. But was that was no, sorry, that was a wing problem, and Red Bull had to apologise to Max because Israel Verstappen was once again the victim of something there. It wasn't Israel Verstappen's fault. Here again, the same kind of dynamics were in play. There was a problem with the car. Red Bull had to again apologise to Israel Verstappen, and it was the problem with the wing that meant that Max ended up in his gravel pit once again. But here there was a problem with there was another problem with the car here. Martin will tell you about it.
For the second consecutive weekend, the Red Bull did not get off the line.
Second consecutive weekend. You see what I mean, lads? Second consecutive weekend. There's a problem with the Red Bull. Okay, the Red Bull didn't get off the line. Had it not been for the Red Bull not getting off the line, Max would have. Max would have got off the line, but it was just the problem was the Red Bull didn't get off the line. I mean, Max was already at the first corner, but he had to wait for the Red Bull to get off the line. So Red Bull didn't get off the line. So despite starting on pole position on soft tyres, the medium compound runner of the Mercedes got off the line first. You would think the extra grip of the soft compound tyres would give you the advantage, but sadly, that for the second weekend in a row, that there's a fault with the Red Bull car again.
For Lewis Hamilton.
Yes, the only good news there for Red Bull is at least Perez is up there, but
I mean, the good news is that Perez is up there. The good news is that the second Red Bull car there wasn't a problem with, but the bad news is the first Red Bull car, for the second weekend in a row, there was a problem with it, and it's the problem with the car that's affected the driver there.
For the second consecutive weekend, the Red Bull.
Oh no! What's going on now? Wow, there's a car that carries so much extra speed into a corner that it's understeer, 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 and doesn't leave room on exit for the car that they're trying to overtake. So the car on the car that's being challenged sees that coming, realizes that if they try and keep on the track, then there's going to be a collision. The other car's going to hit them. So they take evasive action not to have their race ruined. Now, due to the layout of this track, if you are on entry to the corner at the braking zone, you're in the lead. If you go off the track, let's just go back here. You'll see here, if you go off the track here and then try and come back around here, you're trying to then, it turns this corner into a hairpin as the rest of the field's coming round on you. You're re-entering a track in an unsafe manner as all these cars are trying to come round on you. You've then turned this turn 7 into a hairpin and essentially have to take that so much slower, because normally what you do, you come around here and then you try and widen it out and take turn 7 faster, but you can't come back onto the track here, having been forced off here at turn 6. You can't then come back on, go across to the other side of the track to open that turn up again, because all this stream of cars is coming by you. That's going to significantly disadvantage you. You're going to lose loads and loads of places just because somebody's fucked it up the inside of you and forced you off the track there. So you've got to try and keep your car under control. You've got to avoid a collision, and then you've got to rejoin the track in an unsafe manner and be mindful of not being disadvantaged by somebody else's foul, because you can't trust the governing body to deal with it appropriately, because they've demonstrated throughout the season that they don't do that. They serve Israel. They're all part of the lobbying group called Red Bull Friends of Israel. So ultimately, you've got to take the law into your own hands and do the right thing, which is avoid getting crashed out, okay, by somebody bombing you with a dive, and then not having your life chances impacted by that, and trying to then get away from the situation. All right, that's just what we have to do. But the thing that surprised me most, I mean, what we saw at Silverstone is for the next 8 laps, they were debating whether what Israel did there, that driving Lindblad off the track and gaining an advantage, maintaining an advantage by leaving the track, whether or not Max would have had to give that place back. Because when watching the British Grand Prix, what we've seen there is Max has left the track maintaining an advantage, right? He's gone into a corner too fast. He's left the track, and that's helped him maintain his position. So I was expecting at Silverstone for the next 8 laps for every commentator to be saying that Max has got to give a place back, and every expert to confirm that Max has got to give that place back. Because at Abu Dhabi 2021, that's what happened. Let's remind ourselves.
Claire, it is a dream start for Lewis Hamilton.
Yes, the only good news there for Red Bull is at least Perez is up there, but for the second consecutive weekend, the Red Bull did not get off the line very well.
This 3 abreast going into the turn 9 hairpin. Oh, and there Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton almost coming together. Hamilton has to go off the track. The Dutch fans roaring in the background. Lewis Hamilton in the lead, but will he?
Did you see the GPS? The global positioning system liked to make it look like Hamilton had got a huge advantage there. Just look at the little dots here. Look at the dots here. This is the distance we're seeing between Lewis and Max. Let's have a look.
Bottas leads Perez. Then
ignore the bullshit commentary for now. Okay, we know that the Red Bull was at fault for it not getting itself off the line. All right.
Leads Norris, then the 2 Ferraris of Sainz and Leclerc. It is a dream start for Lewis Hamilton.
Yes, the only good news there for Red Bull is at least Perez is up there, but for the second...
See, all along there, you could see two clear dots. You could see Lewis Hamilton's dots and Max's dots. We're approaching the corner, and both cars have to slow down to make it around that corner. And you'll see Max's dot start going across the top of Lewis's dot. One of those cars is slowing itself down. The other one isn't. Okay, that's the way that works. The GPS can monitor that, and that's why we get what we see.
Consecutive weekend, the Red Bull did not get off the line very well.
This 3 abreast going into the turn 9 hairpin.
So we've got a jump there. Okay, we've got a jump of it's jumped it there because it's had Lewis coming round there and it didn't. But now look at this jump here.
Oh, and there Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton almost coming to...
Oh, Max seemed to go in reverse for a little bit there. Look at all that advantage that Lewis has built up because Max has selected the wrong gear and he's selected reverse.
Together, Hamilton has to go off the track. The Dutch fans roaring in the background, in the back.
But then he's got that Red Bull to jump. Okay, well done, Max. Anyway, so what's happening now? At such an incident, let the commentators talk us through what needs to happen.
Lewis Hamilton in the lead, but will he have to give out the place?
Yes, of course he will, but the problem he's got is Perez is right on Verstappen's tail.
Yes, he gave that back.
Verstappen wants that place back, and he wants
Israel Verstappen, the victim, has to give that place back.
That place back right now.
What Max should do is back up a little bit and make sure Perez is right on his gearbox for when Lewis inevitably has to give that place back. Verstappen had to do that.
Inevitably has to give that place back. Verstappen had to send in the dive bomb to drive Lewis off the track. Thanks, Martin.
What Max should do is back up a little bit and make sure Perez is right on his gearbox for when Lewis inevitably has to give that place back. Verstappen had to do that lunge.
Yes, he had to carry so much extra speed that it's understeer, 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 and leave no track room on exit for Lewis. He had to do that. What, had to commit a driving infringement, Martin?
So behind them, the lunge was on with Norris and Sainz.
The lunge was on. The lunge was on.
And Leclerc, Sainz in fourth, Norris fifth, Leclerc in sixth, out in front. Hamilton still has the lead.
So that's the end of lap one. Let's have a look at lap two. They're still talking on lap two.
From Max Verstappen, from Sergio Perez, and at the end of lap one, Hamilton's advantage over Verstappen is 1.1 seconds.
Push me off track. Yeah, copy.
Absolutely right, Lewis. He did push you off track. Had you tried to remain on track, then there would have been a crash because he's dive bombed in there, leaving no room for you. That's dangerous driving. That's illegal driving. That's at least a 5-second penalty and 2 penalty points on your driving licence. But no. You'd have been banned by now if they'd have done that appropriately throughout the season.
We're happy with the gap that you've reinstated.
Oh, well, so Mercedes then tactic here is, okay, you haven't gained.
It's a Mercedes tactic. Okay, part of the clever cards.
A lasting advantage. So the stewards will be looking at that. You've re-established the gap. Not quite sure I can see that. You re-established the gap that you had before you went off. Well, they were side by side when they went off.
The only reason they were side by side when they went off is because Max had fucked it in there, Martin. And he was going too fast to get himself to there. Not in control of his car. And you have to be in control of your car to make an overtaking manoeuvre. Okay, if you're driving into a corner, Martin, and so, to take the corner appropriately, you've got to slow your car down to 40 miles an hour, but somebody who's behind you keeps their speed at 80 miles an hour, right? That's too fast to make the corner appropriately. But then if there's a collision right at the midpoint of the corner, oh, they were side by side then. They were side by side. I'm not sure that's right because they were side by side. No, the only reason they're side by side now is because the other car has got to that point by going too fast and not in control, Martin. You'd have thought, as a former Formula One driver, you'd understand that dynamic and you'd be able to educate the children with that dynamic rather than keep fluffing Maxwell Verstappen, wouldn't you?
Did wonder whether the stewards would need to get involved this weekend.
You did wonder whether the steward would need to get involved this weekend, didn't you, Crofty? You wondered whether they would or... I mean, you know what I said about the skeleton script for an event? You did wonder whether the stewards would be involved. Isn't it amazing the prophecy that these commentators could predict? Yeah, I did say back on lap 2 that, the stewards might be involved in this weekend. Oh, yeah, you could see it coming, couldn't you, lads? You could see it coming.
By courtesy of that moment down at turn 7, surely they need to get involved to make a decision one way or another, but it's Hamilton out in...
Yeah, the correct decision is a car that wasn't entitled to make an overtaking attempt at that corner because at the braking zone it hadn't made it at least halfway alongside Lewis Hamilton's car, therefore was not entitled to be left track room, therefore had to yield going into that corner, had to put his foot on the brakes and leave the racing line to the car that was in front and therefore entitled to the racing line. No, Max didn't do that. What Max did he carried too much speed into the corner, making the other car have to take evasive action, leaving no track room for the other car, meaning the other car had to leave the track to avoid a collision, and that is called crowding another car off the track. That attracts at least a 5-second penalty. That is the stewarding decision that is required to be made. Okay? Now, which of the stewards know the rules? Which of the stewards are fit and proper judges of the situation? Which of the stewards go around on the Red Bull private jet? Which of the stewards doesn't like black people because he has his great white hope? Which of the stewards is likely to favour the vehicle powered by a Honda engine because they own a Honda car dealership and hence have a conflict of interest. Can you see that there is a problem here with the composition of the judge panel, the stewards? Are they qualified to make the appropriate decision? Do they have any conflicts of interest that would lead to them not making the appropriate decision? Do the commentators understand the rules of the sport, the rules of engagement, and are they able to articulate them to the fans of the sport? Isn't it strange in this the best sport you've ever seen of the planet, the pinnacle of motorsport? The answer is no to all of them questions. Strange that, isn't it? Strange.
Front, will he have to give the place back, or will he keep the lead?
I think that's clear cut for me anyway, but we're talking team play here with Red Bull second and third.
It's team play. It's team play, and part of your team is the Mexican Minister of Defence. So knowing that Red Bull have got the ability to work as a team, then obviously Mercedes in the form of Bono will ensure that their strategy of starting on the mediums, being able to go till lap 20, 25, and the two Red Bull cars both on soft compound tyres, therefore having to pit earlier, we can avoid the notion of the team players interfering with Hamilton's race, because you've got tyres that will last longer than them. They'll pit. When the Red Bulls pit, you're already ahead of them. They're going to lose the 30 seconds, 25 seconds, whatever it is, 22, 25 seconds. You're already 8 seconds ahead of Max. He's going to then have added to that another 22 seconds minimum. So you're now going to be 30 seconds ahead of Max. You can keep that going for another few laps. He's on hards, you're on mediums. You can still keep that going. He's not going to make inroads into your lead. You can wait for Perez to pit. Not a problem. During that time, if there's a safety car or virtual safety car, you'll get a cheap pit stop. So having been originally 8 seconds ahead or so prior to the pit round of pit stops, if you can get a cheap one, you'll actually gain time through that style of pit stop. That'd be good, wouldn't it? If it's actually a full safety car, the advantages would be wiped out anyway, but there'd be less jeopardy. You can go into the pits, even if it's a slow pit stop, you'll still get back out and track ahead of him. Not a problem. Not a problem. You've got all this at your disposal. Oh, but no, what we'll do, we'll pit him so that he comes out behind the Mexican Minister of Defence and let the team work. You know, Max having the benefit of his team. No I in team, but there is one in Israel.
Valtteri Bottas has now dropped down to 8th place.
He was having an early battle, wasn't he, with Yuki Tsunoda. Tsunoda's got it.
Hamilton's team's not very good, okay? Hamilton's team, not very good. They threw him under a bus. They contrived it against him. I mean, his team boss, Toto, Toto's quite influential within the show. Because what Toto does, Toto supplies engines to other teams and therefore can have leverage over them. He can instruct them what they need to do in return to being supplied with an engine. So they supply to McLaren, and McLaren can help with a tyre twist, Crofty, such as slow punctures that we saw George Russell have a slow puncture, and they tell us at Silverstone about, oh, these tyres can explode when you've got a slow puncture. But with the risk of an exploding tyre, by driving around on a slow puncture, Lando was told to push as hard as he can. So McLaren were able to play their part there and also stay quiet when Lando was left at turn 5, racing under yellow flags because they're told they're racing from the line, and it was still under yellow conditions until here, between turn 4 and 5. They all them 5 cars that were released were therefore guilty of driving infringements. You know, potential penalties for car number. I don't know the numbers of the cars, don't really matter. Norris, Alonso, Ocon, Leclerc and Vettel, all driving round under yellows, having been released, but not slowing, not lifting for yellows because they're racing. That's a penalty for each of them cars, lads. That's a penalty for each of them cars. But when you apply that penalty, Daniel Ricciardo doesn't move up because the car behind Vettel, he was held back behind Max to protect to protect Max from being overtaken by third place Sainz. So when Max carried so much extra speed into turn 5 and fucked Lewis Hamilton out wide on turn 5, he wasn't at risk as somebody to go around the inside on the appropriate racing line and overtaking the pair of them. Now, only Lewis Hamilton can overtake 2 cars at Silverstone the other year. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. We're still on lap 2. I've jumped the gun again. Don't go having false starts as well, because you get a 5-second penalty if you jump the gun.
Ahead of him, Bottas not in play to help his teammate, who's going to have to try and win this the hard way. Now, this the run down.
Oh, I was talking about Lewis's team throwing him under a bus, wasn't I? I get distracted. Okay, it's my mind, you see. So having attention deficit means that I don't focus on the important things. The important things are that McLaren here, they can get influenced by Toto. So they played their part with the tyre twist, Crofty, the slow puncture narrative. Then out here, despite Lando Norris being guilty of a yellow flag infringement, 7th place after Perez retired the car, he wasn't allowed to challenge for 6th. But McLaren didn't protest that. I mean, he was 11.2 seconds behind Gasly when Latifi crashed. Max was 11.9 seconds behind Hamilton. Max was put on the gearbox of Hamilton. Lando wasn't put on the gearbox of Gasly. But McLaren didn't protest that. They didn't think there was anything wrong with that. Okay? They were happy to be the victims of that situation as well. But they are supplied with Mercedes engines, so they should count themselves lucky to be supplied with the Mercedes engine. Another team supplied with the Mercedes engine are the Williams team. Now, because George Russell was now going to be the Mercedes driver for the 2022 season, because obviously Bottas is not doing the job, then we'll retire George. We'll keep George out of any kind of controversy and whatsoever. But the driver that normally crashes a lot in the sport of Formula One, in the show of Formula One, nobody will be suspicious if the guy that normally crashes. But we can't have. We know that the guy that normally crashes is Max. All right. But that's not Max. It's never Max's fault. It's always the car's fault. Okay, that's the car crashing. That's not Max crashing. Okay, but if the guy that normally crashes, then everyone. Yeah, it's just standard, isn't it? It's Latifi again. It's the same guy that keeps crashing as once again crashed again. Okay, and I know you can apply the same sentence to Max, but we know that it's not Max because it's not Max's fault that he's crashing. It's the car. It's the Red Bull crashing itself. All right, so. Just remember, you can't blame Max, okay? You cannot blame... If you blame Max, that makes you anti-Semitic, all right? Don't be anti-Semitic, right? It's not Max's fault, it's the car's fault. Anyway, so Latifi crashes, and he was told that it had to be that lap that he had to crash. And so the way he crashes is he normally takes turn 14 in 4th gear. He dropped it down to 3rd gear. He dumped the throttle with a steering angle on. When you do that, when you're driving a car, kids, in a rear-wheel drive car, if you drop a gear, if your car's sufficiently powerful, this is, and you put it in a low gear and you floor the accelerator, you'll get the back end to spin up. And if you've got a steering wheel angle on, the back end comes around on you. Okay, that's how it's done. You can look on YouTube for how it's done. Okay, don't do it on public roads. It's dangerous, and if you don't know how to control the vehicle, you'll be out of control and you'll crash. All right, but if you're looking to kick the back end of your car out and do these kind of donuts and things like that, where the back end of your car comes around, that's how you'd be looking to do it. Anyway, Latifi does that, going around turn 14, puts it into the barriers, back end first, right, and then. Often what you'll see in the show of Formula One is if a car is involved in an accident, and they're still on the track, often they'll see if they can move their car, see if they can get their car going, make it back to the pits, get them out of the way, get them off the racetrack, because obviously just sat there, they're in peril. Okay, cars are coming around that track at high speed and could just hit them, couldn't they? So driver would normally want to get himself out of the way of being a sitting duck like that, but also it clears the track quicker, and often they want to see if they can still have any chance of remaining in the race and still contesting that. Latifi made no attempt whatsoever to see if it was possible to move his car. He just was told to switch the engine off. So he just switched the engine off. And were it not for that car catching fire, they would have been able to recover the car, carry out the mandatory procedures, and we would have got the last lap shootout. You couldn't make it up. But the car caught fire, so we couldn't get that. So in order to get the last lap shootout that you couldn't make up by doing it in such a way, we got it. I mean, you had to break the rules to make the plan work, but yeah, that's what you did. And don't you worry, little heads. We've got the commentators to cover for that, and we've got all the media to cover for that, because everybody's just confused. Nobody knows the rules. It's all confusing. It turns into a courtroom argument by these same judges. And Red Bull are allowed to advocate for the FIA, who are guilty of the regulation breach, but Red Bull are the people who are allowed to argue on behalf of the FIA to justify the regulation breach of the FIA. That's how it works, kids. Okay, that's how law works. You get if ever there's a problem, right? You can just get Red Bull to advocate for you, to claim your innocence for it. As long as it benefits Red Bull, then they're the ones that are allowed to advocate for you to claim that what you did wrong wasn't wrong, and that's okay because it benefited Red Bull from that. That's the judicial process allowed by judges who get a flight round on the Red Bull private jet, and by people that benefit from Honda doing well out of the situation and awarding Honda victory in a situation, and by being racist and awarding somebody that's their Great White Hope victory in a situation. Don't worry, that's the way the judiciary works, those who are allowed to judge this process. So where were we? Mercedes engines supplied to McLaren, they played their part. Williams, they played their part. Mick Schumacher, who then got the job as the Williams reserve driver, didn't he? He played his part by staging the little dance off. You pushed me off, though. You've got to make it look like it's, something. You've got to give an excuse. The dirty tyres, the part of the tyre now. Tyres, dirty tyres, clean tyres. So everybody, risk and reward. You serve and be off service. Ultimately, there is the reward for that, like McLaren becoming Constructors' Championship. For the time down the line, they win the Constructors' title twice. After they'd done a deal with the company, which is the company that is owned or is led by the head of the FIA's brother that likes his torture videos. So McLaren did a deal with him, and now McLaren become champions as well. It's don't worry about that. That's all above board and legitimate. And yeah, you stay quiet, you don't expose what's going on, and you get your reward. It's all about money, nothing to do with integrity. We're still on lap 2.
Verstappen a long way back, lunges into the apex, they do touch, and Hamilton has to take to the escape road. Did Verstappen lunge correctly and fairly? Well,
no, he didn't, Crofty.
The stewards rule in Verstappen's favour there, or was that an...
Did he lunge? Will the stewards rule in Verstappen's favour? So this is our experts, right? They're asking the audience. Did he lunge? Let me know what you think in the comment section. Do you think Max lunged fairly? Will the stewards rule in Verstappen's favour? Let's get Ratboy on the Skypad or Karun Chandok on the Skypad to do us the analysis, whether it's understeer, or nowhere in the guidelines does it say that the car on the inside has to remain on the track, says Karun. Let's see if the stewards judging the situation refer to the driving guidelines, or whether we're looking at the actual driving standards in the FIA International Sporting Code, not this made-up bullshit of guidelines that validate Max Verstappen's illegal driving. But nice framing there from the commentators who don't know how to analyse the incidents. Strange, isn't it, that we've got the best sport in the world, okay, the pinnacle of motorsport, and these people that can talk loud and fast but don't know how to analyse it and don't know how to explain the mechanics of it. Strange that, isn't it?
Opportunist move that was never, ever going to be on. Will they decide?
It was never, ever going to be on. Absolutely right, Crofty. Will it? Will it be this? Will it be that? Was it never, ever, ever on? Oh, was it this? Was it that? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. You see, nobody knows. Okay, all we can ever do in the show of Formula One is present just how confused we all are with it all. Okay, none of us have the ability to work it out. Nobody knows. Nobody knows what the judges are going to decide here. Because we can't look at a situation, break it down, analyse it, and tell you this is the reality of the situation, and therefore this is the person who is at fault, and therefore this is the penalty that needs to be applied. We can't do that. Okay? It's all about, will this happen? Will that happen? What's going to happen there? Will they think this? Will they think that? What do you think? Oh, well, I think, based on what my desires are, I like this. All right, smooth brain. Yeah, they know that. That's why they do it like this, dickhead. That's why they do it like this. You won't like hearing that, okay? You won't like hearing that. I know you don't like that because you'll feel entitled to your opinion. Okay. That's what you've been encouraged to believe, because they don't want you having the ability to understand what the requirements are and why. Okay, they'll want your opinions that you're entitled to be led by your personal individual desires without any consideration to the rules that are in place for the safety and fairness to everybody. So ignore that, ignore the rules and regulations that are there for the function of this, so it's fair for everybody, and just put yourself in the situation of what you want. Like the billionaire in the capitalist system. What do they want? Oh, they want to get themselves rich. They want to be able to exploit everybody. You'd like to be rich and be like a billionaire on a billionaire's yacht, wouldn't you? Yes. So how would you feel? Yes. So let's not punish the billionaire, because that could be you one day, and you wouldn't want to be punished, would you? No, you'd be happy exploiting everybody, wouldn't you? Maximally exploiting everybody so that you could live like a billionaire. Yeah, that's what we'd all like to be, isn't it? Yeah. So don't worry about the rules. Don't worry about the rules that are there to prevent that. We'll turn a blind eye to that, and we'll have judges that don't know the rules, that have got aligned interests with the billionaires and rule in favour of the billionaires. Don't you worry about that, though. They own the media that's going to encourage you to think the way you do, to go along with what the billionaire's agenda is, to make you feel that, yeah, that aligns with yours because that's a benefit to you too. Go with your personal desires, lads. Don't have the ability to analyse a situation critically. Talk us through critical thinking, lads. You know all about. Oh yes, I know about critical thinking. I know the words critical thinking. Don't know what it is, but you know the words, don't you? And you think that it makes you sound clever, doesn't it? Yeah, it makes you sound clever when you use the term. What's the other one? Dunning-Kruger. Yeah, you know the words. Don't know what it means, though, do you, lads? But you think that what it does by using that, it can you try to use it to undermine others, and others will go, oh, yes, because they agree, but they don't know either. Don't you worry, little heads.
Correctly and fairly, will the stewards rule in Verstappen's favour there, or was that an opportunist move that was never, ever going to be on? Will they decide that way?
It was late, but the door was open and Max stayed on the racetrack.
Martin Brundle, it was late. but the door was open. Now, right, when you go around a motor racing track, kids, what you're not likely to encounter is like a door, right? Usually the motor racing track and roads as well, there's not usually doors there, so you don't like have to ring the doorbell or knock the door and wait for the door to open before you drive through it. Okay, just in case you didn't realise that. What there's rules of engagement, which are as you're driving around, as you go around a track, you've got to negotiate the different corners. I mean, you can't. I mean, and to make your car go around this corner for turn 2, for example, if you're doing 200 miles an hour, if you get your car up to 200 miles an hour and trying to go around turn 2, it won't. All right. The momentum of your car will want to keep it going on in a straight line. All right. And to get your car to go around that curve, you have to slow it down. Now, if you just like turn your wheel and expect it to go there around there at 200 miles an hour, what's going to happen is your car's still going to go on in a straight line. Okay. Now, Karun will tell you that that's understeer, understeer, understeer. No, that's you driving out of control, not putting the correct inputs into the car to take the appropriate direction, to the appropriate route. Okay, you've got to stay on the car. Now, as you go around the car, there's conventions, and that is there's a racing line. The racing line around turn 2 is keeping your car wide, and you then drive across the track to try and kiss this side of the track, and then that drive across the track so you kiss this side of the track and exit. What that does, that straightens that line as much as possible. Okay, if you take a line whereby it's the opposite of that, you start off on the inside, go across to the outside, and then come back to the inside, that makes it a tighter corner. You can't carry so much speed through that. When you start wide, go across the inside, end up wide, that turns what is a curve into more of a straight line, enabling you to carry more speed. That's called the racing line. Now, when there's 2 cars competing for a position, neither one can be on the racing line. But what you have to do assess is when you come to a corner, do these cars have to leave each other track room, or is one entitled to be on the racing line and flatten that corner out? Well, there's an assessment criteria. Each driver's got to assess at the braking zone whether they're entitled to the racing line or whether they have to leave track room for the other car, meaning that they've got to go around this corner, leaving each other room, and they end up going around pretty much side by side. That's done in the braking zone. Max wasn't entitled to be there. Martin?
Was that an opportunist move that was never, ever going to be on? Will they decide that way?
It was late, but the door was open and Max stayed on the racetrack.
And the requirement is, if you attempt to manoeuvre like this, being eligible, he wasn't eligible, but even had he been eligible, the requirement is he leaves a room on exit of this corner for the car that he's seeking to overtake, not crowd them over the track, crowd them off the track. Martin just said, well, Max stayed on the track, making those with the desires for Max think that that's okay. Not educate them with he didn't do what was required, which was leave track room for the car that he's seeking to overtake. That's Martin Brundle for you, the expert of the sport. Not able to educate the kids. Strange that, isn't it? So that's we're now on to lap 3. Remember, Silverstone, we were talking about Max's move on Lindblad there, weren't we?
No investigation necessary, say the stewards. Derek Warren.
No investigation necessary. So normally when we get no investigation necessary by the stewards, that's the announcement, and we crack on with the race commentary, don't we? Stewards say no further action required. No further action. Yeah. This is stewards. It's been noted. Stewards' decision. No further action. That's what we normally get. And on with the commentary. Right. We just started lap 3.
The door was open and Max stayed on the racetrack.
No investigation necessary.
No investigation necessary. Now, like I say, normally the notification is noted by the stewards. no further action. Steward's decision, no further action. This time it's no investigation necessary. Now, surely what you'd normally do is perform the investigation and determine the outcome of the investigation. Now, we investigated this. Okay, we investigated this, and having investigated it, this is what we have determined. Yeah? We looked at it, investigated it, and this is our determination of the circumstances. Here, so we don't even need to investigate this one. Really? Why do you not need to investigate something that can have an impact on the race? I mean, when you do investigate it, you find that a car has crowded another car off the track, like it did in Austria. Like, who was penalised in Austria 2021? Was it Norris? Got a 5-second penalty for crowding another car off the track, Perez. And then was it Perez twice, who got 2 penalties for crowding Leclerc off the track twice, or at least one of them. Here, we're not even performing the investigation. Why are we not performing the investigation, lads?
Will they decide that way?
It was late, but the door was open and Max stayed on the racetrack.
No investigation necessary.
Well, it's an incident, and you are required to investigate it. Why is no investigation necessary? You're the judges. You've had referred to you an incident. Your role is to investigate it, lads. Why would you not investigate it? Israel Verstappen has perpetrated a crime, and the judges have said no investigation necessary. That's strange.
Say the stewards. Derek Warwick, former Grand Prix racer Gary Connolly.
Derek Warwick, Great White Hope, is a fan of Max Verstappen, owns a Honda car dealership on Jersey. Honda power the Red Bull cars. Okay, so yes, he was a former racer, right? But you've missed out the key credentials that mean that he's not a fit and proper person to be judging this event.
Very experienced steward Felix Holt.
Gary Connolly gets a lift round on the Red Bull private jet from Australia. So, you know, the ideal person to have in this kangaroo court.
Completing that particular trip.
Felix Holter, nothing to say about Felix. That's the trio of FIA appointed stewards who are there to judge on the things that take place within the FIA event, appointed by the FIA, applying the FIA rules and regulations and penalty structure, yet acting independent of the FIA apparently, which is exactly how the British justice system is actually constructed. These judges, you know, you have a problem, so the service is His Majesty's Courts and Tribunals Service. And that your problem then gets dealt with by a judge, but they're nothing to do. Even though it's appointed by your case is handed to them by HMCTS, the judges independently. They're supposed to be applying law, okay, which should suppose to everybody, but they act with impunity, and it's all about their individual interpretation of that. You can't hold them to account for their individual interpretation. It's all a manipulation, as I'll come to before we take Abu Dhabi to court, okay? But you've got to realise that the court, the British court, is a kangaroo court of corrupt judges and manipulators, and I'll prove it. And so, therefore, when we do take Abu Dhabi to court, that is what we are up against, and we're going to have to crash the British justice system. You don't realise how big this is. This has been the journey of the last 5 years. You do not realise how big this example actually is. Anyway.
They've got bags of experience in the steward's room, and they've decided no investigation necessary. Well, it's like Brazil.
No investigation necessary. You've just seen on there that there's a problem. You've just seen that there's an infringement there for you to adjudicate on, to investigate, to review. No investigation needed here. Why not? Why not? What's going to happen later to make this irrelevant, lads?
Turn 4, there was no investigation necessary that day either.
That's the card they...
Steward's room, and they've decided no investigation necessary. Well, it's like Brazil. Turn 4, there was no investigation necessary that day either.
Yeah, turn 4, where Max drove Lewis off the track. And Crofty said, did Max drive him off the track? And Martin's excuse there was, oh, he didn't hit him. Didn't drive into him, did he? No investigation for that one either. Strange this, isn't it? Strange that we're seeing clear crimes and the judiciary, don't need to investigate that crime. Don't need to investigate that crime.
That's the card they played, and so...
But that's a card that they played. Where was this card game, Martin? Where was the card? I mean, whose yacht in Monaco was this card game played out on? Let me have I need to practice playing some cards so I can involve myself in one of these card games.
Decided no investigation necessary. Well, it's like Brazil. Turn 4, there was no investigation necessary that day either.
That's the card they played, and so we're back as we were then, 1.4 seconds behind Max Verstappen. Red Bull, I think, will be on the blower to race control, to question.
Now, Martin is predicting that Red Bull will be on the phone to race control. Okay, Martin's predicting that.
That one, but that's with all of the information they've got available to them, what they see, the different camera angles, other...
But it's been declared no, we're not going to investigate it.
There we go.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
So, I've just seen it again. Max is ahead at the apex.
Jonathan.
Stays on the track.
Jonathan, he's forced him out there. That's why we asked him to give back
Lewis
all
has
of the advantage.
left the...
Yes, he's forced him out there. Now, if we do the investigation, Jonathan, Israel Red Bull, Israel Verstappen claiming to be the victim here, your driver's the one that's guilty of the offence. Your driver's the one who has driven the other car off the track. That you're claiming to be the victim of the situation, and your victimhood is being broadcast by F1 TV to incite the fanboys. Those with their opinions that they're entitled to based on their desires that give them what they want. Because they've got no values, got no sense of fairness, of decency. Happily exploit everybody else as long as they are winning in life.
Track, and you told him to give back all the advantage.
All the advantage was already given back prior to the first lap ending.
I'm not sure we agree, but understood.
I'm not sure we agree, says Wheatley. We'll see what happens with you, Wheatley. We'll see what happens with you. We'll get to that when we get to court.
No problems.
So in the eyes of the stewards then, Lewis Hamilton slowed down enough to give back some of the extra meat.
In the eyes of the stewards, he slowed... No, the stewards just didn't investigate. They didn't investigate, mate. Okay, they didn't... You've told us no investigation necessary. So they wouldn't have assessed the distance he was ahead going in, and they wouldn't have assessed the distance afterwards because they didn't do any investigation. They said no investigations necessary, so they wouldn't have decided that at all, Crofty.
That he gained when he went off the track.
Because had they done that, had they done the investigation, they'd have obviously come to the conclusion that Max was guilty of crowding somebody off the track. So none of that took place, did it, Crofty?
And that was fair. There's race director Michael Massey. That was fair in their opinion. 1.5 seconds now, the gap.
In their opinion, okay? That was fair in their opinion. You know what I said about the structure of F1 being very similar to the UK judiciary structure? It's funny that the CEOs of F1 have always been lawyers, isn't it? How do you construct this? Oh, yeah, this is how it works in our industry of manipulation. So let's set our industry of motorsport up in exactly the same way so that we can manipulate it in the same way. Funny that, isn't it? Funny that to be the CEO, or that kind of role within F1, go and have a look, company's house. all lawyers. That gives them the credentials to be like CEO, CFO, directors of the brand of F1. Lawyers, master manipulators, knowing all about it in the industry of. Apparently, it falls under the banner, the missold banner of justice here in the UK. But it's what it actually is manipulation to protect power and wealth. But anyway, and that it is at that kind of level, at the level where it impacts us, the people. It's actually an industry to enable lawyers to exploit and extract people's issues. So what will happen is if you've got a problem that you need the intervention of the courts to resolve, their first priority is how much can we take from this situation? What's the situation? How much are you worth? How much is at stake within this case? How can we extract as much of that as possible for ourselves? That's what the law is, according to those who operate within the law. It's just extraction. Anyway, don't worry about that. We're excited. We're just completing lap 3. So soon we'll be back with on the race. We won't be talking about this lap 1 incident soon because we're going on to lap 4.
Well, I call these things as I see them. Doesn't seem to matter whatever you say. One of the teams is unhappy with you, but I don't see that the gap was the same.
Okay, mate, so just get your head down. No investigation on the shortcuts or the advantage that he's gained in terms of...
Giampiero Lambasi. Right, so these little private messages that take place between Lambasi and Max Verstappen, they can remain private, or F1 TV can choose to broadcast them to the whole world to incite the fanboy. I know, let's broadcast them to the world to incite the fanboy. Well, we've already determined that the judges have said that they're not going to investigate it. But we can keep inciting the fanboy with a sense of fake injustice, can't we? Yes. I mean, the media, they can incite people and make people feel a certain way about something by the way that they present something, can't they? Yeah. Or they could explain the truth. But if the truth doesn't meet the agenda of somebody, then maybe they'll just serve the agenda. Yes.
The gap, so let's just get on with this and win it on track, mate.
That is incredible.
Winning it on track, mate. Winning it on track. No, but Mercedes are the ones that brought the barrister to the sporting event, but we want to win it on track. Israel Verstappen being the victim once again, it's incredible. Don't worry. We're going to get our karma later on. Don't worry.
What are they doing there?
Because they were side by side when the incident happened.
Don't worry, Israel Verstappen, the victim, you'll get your karma. You were the victim there, and therefore, what happens at the end cancels out where you were the victim.
Happened and even into the braking zone. So I don't think the gap was ever given back, but that's what the stewards have decided. They're the ref.
No, Martin, the stewards didn't decide the gap was given back. They decided that there was no form of investigation required. Had they done an investigation, they would have found Max Verstappen guilty of a driving offence that would have awarded Max Verstappen a 5-second penalty.
And I think that's wise advice there to young Max Verstappen in terms of, don't get angry, get even, get on, just focus on the race ahead now.
Well, we wondered, didn't we, was it going to be turn 1 where Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton potentially came together?
You did wonder if they were going to have a crash at turn 1, didn't you? No, but sadly the Red Bull didn't get off the line there. If only the Red Bull would have been able to get off the line, then Max might have been able to crash Lewis out at turn 1.
We lasted 6 corners until they came together. Our first controversial...
They didn't come together because Lewis saw it coming and got out of the way of it. Who was driving in a way that would have gotten those cars together? And who avoided those cars getting together? Oh, Max was driving in a way that would have gotten those cars together to crash. Oh, you're not allowed to do that, lads. And the other driver got out of the way of that. And yet the driver that would have caused the crash is the victim of the situation. And you're still talking about it, lads. You're still talking about it.
Moment of this race, and possibly not the last either, as...
Listen to Crofty.
Eventually came together. We lasted 6 corners until they came together. Our first controversial moment of this race, and possibly not the last either.
You know, that's possibly not the last controversial moment. Yeah, we did say, you know, we predicted, the Oracle managed to predict the future. Like I say, you can't make up a skeleton kind of plan to have certain things take place. I mean, you've got no full control over them, but you can put an outline skeleton kind of, you know, this kind of thing will happen, this kind of thing will happen, play out this. This keeps everybody on the edge of their seat throughout the whole 58 lap Grand Prix, doesn't it? Because we know Formula One gets a bit dry at times. No, this will keep people happy all the time. That will make them want to return next season. This biggest audience we've ever attracted. If we can show them that F1 is exciting all the way through, they'll stay with us. And we're all worth extra billions. No, you wouldn't sit down as CEOs and you know, all of those with aligned interests of making money. You wouldn't have conversations like that, such as teams agreeing to a racing finish, would you? You wouldn't have meetings and sub meetings that Martin knows about and all kinds of agreements. No, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do that.
As Hamilton takes to the runoff area, stays ahead of Verstappen. The stewards say no investigation, no penalty to be applied. Now we can get back on with the racing.
Thank God. Now we can get on back with the racing. You know, we're almost completed lap 4. Let's just make sure you lose track of time, don't you?
You would feel that because Max slid sideways.
We're on lap 4, but thankfully we can get back on with
Max
racing.
slid sideways. He pushed Lewis out of.
No investigation, no penalty to be applied. Now we can get back on with the racing.
Yeah, critically,
I mean, for 4 laps we hadn't been racing, but now we can get back on with the racing.
Stewards feel that because Max slid sideways, he pushed Lewis out of play. But look at that, the Red Bull of.
No, they didn't investigate that, Martin. They said no investigation necessary. So they didn't determine that Max was at fault. Oh, is that why no investigation was necessary? Because had they done an investigation, they'd have had to find that Max was at fault there. Oh.
Verstappen just barely moved initially, did it? It bogged down on him. And there.
Yeah, the Red Bull bogged down on Max. Israel Verstappen, the victim of bogging down.
Is then Perez taking 3rd place as Lando Norris goes wide, comes back in, doesn't gain any advantage. And you can see Bottas falling behind the Ferrari as well.
Lando Norris drives off the track and Perez, well, doesn't gain it. I don't know. Did Perez start? I don't know. Doesn't matter. I'll have a look at that.
Got squeezed a bit, didn't he?
Really, really low revs there for Lewis in the Mercedes and just took off 10th of a second.
The Mercedes just took off. Yeah, the Mercedes just took off, but the Red Bull got bogged down. Now, Lewis wasn't driving the Mercedes at the time. Okay, the Mercedes, of its own accord, just took off, and the Red Bull got bogged down, and Max was the victim of that.
Second, better on the reaction time, just about finds enough grip. And look at that lovely space in front of him. So, yeah, I'm going to call it the same way. I think Max has got in there. He's got into the apex. He's stayed within the white lines of the racetrack. And look at the gap Lewis has pulled out front there. So, I'll stand by that, but that's not what the stewards think.
This is the view from Lewis Hamilton.
Martin will stand by his bullshit validation.
Cockpit as he sees Max Verstappen coming at him at a rate of knots, but it is very much like Brazil. There was no penalty given in Brazil for that turn 4.
Very much like Brazil, where Max ran Lewis off the road in a disgusting manoeuvre that should have got him a black flag, and they didn't penalise Max there either. Yeah, it's very much like Brazil, Crofty.
Max Verstappen lunged late on that day, and the stewards on that day decided that it was a fair move. What they've decided here, once again, it was a fair move from Verstappen.
Funny that a illegal move, the stewards have decided, the judges can't apply the laws. The way that they've interpreted it have determined that, oh, that's fair according to our interpretation. So what kind of society are we living in where here are the rules. Clearly, this is what has happened, but the judge's interpretation of the rules is, oh no, that's not a problem. I had that in a personal court case. All of the evidence, every single piece of evidence that was required, meeting every single piece of criteria that they would use to determine the situation. But by this stage, it was 19 months after I'd submitted the case. It had been handed through the hands of 6 different judges. Judicial error after judicial error after judicial error, resulting in judicial contrivance to contrive the case narrative to absolve the judiciary of consequence for their errors, cover-up, fraud and crime. And the 6th judge found facts, supposedly the opposite of evidence truth, found that everything that I'd proved hadn't met the criteria that he was assessing by, and that I didn't have a case. Case dismissed. That's the way the judiciary works, and I'll prove it all. I will prove all this. This is rapist judge, circuit judge Jonathan Owen. Okay, this is the way it works. Like I say, this last 5 years has been a learning curve, and we're still seeing it. We'll see that. We'll highlight the cases where the British judiciary is contriving outcomes, serving wealth and power. And that is how this is going to go when we take the case of Abu Dhabi to the British courts. The British judiciary is corrupt to the core and will manipulate outcomes for the protection of wealth and power. And this is what the world has to overcome. This is far bigger than Formula One, but it's a perfect vehicle for exposing it if they'll allow it to be exposed, because actually wealth and power owns the platforms where people are trying to expose things, and they've got the secret formula which determines how many people get to see it. But sadly, people don't care, okay? They can't cope with a video like this. It's too long, move on already, all right? Unless it's a flashing image, unless they're excited by it, unless it's a little laugh along, right? And they have the ability to tell us what they think in the comment section and respond with an emoji, all right? They've moved on already, but they're the critical thinkers amongst us. They know, they've heard the term. They know.
Hamilton gave enough time back, so it was honours even at the end of the skirmish.
I thought we were back on with the racing now. I thought you told us we were back on with the racing.
The door was open and he drove through it, and he stayed on the racetrack. He was leery in Saudi Arabia last weekend when he arrived sideways and out of.
That was Larry in Saudi Arabia, where he arrived sideways. This is Max doing the same thing at Saudi as well. I mean, earlier than that, he'd gone off the track as well, rejoined the track in an unsafe manner, making Lewis Hamilton have to take evasive action. And in doing so, that dropped Hamilton behind Ocon. So that disadvantaged Hamilton. Wasn't appropriately penalised for that. That Larry turn where again he does the same thing with Hamilton on his outside was Larry into turn 1. Had Hamilton not kept on his outside and also left the track there, then there would have been another collision there. Being willing to collide, knowing if you take the other guy out, you become the world champion, so just crash him out of the race. Then he brake tested him. That was Saudi. So why are these judges not penalising the offender all the time? Why are they interpreting the clear rules and regulations and find, oh no, we're not going to punish him for these clear breaches? Oh, the judges are manipulating outcomes for the benefit of who? Oh, the overall show, making money. The judges making decisions to outrage people, and by outraging people, that causes engagement with the show, making the show more valuable. Oh, look at Formula One. That can attract the attention of all these people. That can attract greater investment into the advertising space, because the advertising space becomes more valuable because it exposes these adverts to more people. That makes all of the brand of Formula One, the sport of Formula One, and every associated team of Formula One far more valuable. Oh, the judges that are linked with Formula One. Oh, what decisions are they making? Are they applying the laws of Formula One? Or are they benefiting the industry of Formula One? Oh, what they're doing there.
Control, and Lewis made an attempt, and that's why Max had to give the place back. And Lewis came back on the track within the corner and made a reasonable effort, having been pushed out of the way, to get on the track.
Ted Kravitz, very good evening to you.
Hello, Crofty. I didn't think it was going to get this controversial this early. Hello, Martin.
You
Hello,
didn't?
everyone. I didn't.
Ted didn't think it was going to get this controversial this early. He was expecting it to get controversial later. Okay, he expected it to get controversial, but not as early as this. They didn't tell Ted about this bit of controversy. He was expecting the controversy to be a bit later. Thanks, Ted.
No,
But what he is priming for is controversy later on in the race. Just as Crofty primed everybody for being, are we going to get any more intervention of the stewards later on? You know, we're priming people for more controversy later, more controversy later. Again, when you are layering the information and planting the seeds in the minds of the people, you know, there's various different techniques that you can do it in. Go and research the different techniques that they can use to plant information and plant ideas into the minds of people. You know, they did do experiments about this, and what are the effective techniques of making this kind of thing work. No, obviously, those kind of people that work in Formula One, they don't know that. They're not marketing experts, and therefore they don't know, you know, marketing experts, media companies, mind conditioning companies, they don't know the techniques that are used to best influence people's minds to attract them to do, you know, to exhibit a certain kind of behavior. Just like when you're trying to get people to buy something, you're not going to make an advert to best inspire them to go out and purchase that product, are you? No, you're not going to do. They've got no expertise about how to do that and how to give people subliminal thoughts to actually lead them to behave a certain way. No, they wouldn't know. They wouldn't know.
Looking down from where I am in the pit lane across to the Red Bull pit wall, Christian Horner might as well have steam coming out of his ears. I understand he's been on the
Christian, once again, Israel, Red Bull, and Verstappen and Horner, they're the victims.
Radio speaking directly to the race director, Michael Massey, to put his point of view. Maybe we'll hear from him in a second what he had to say.
Oh, the teams interacting with race control. It's a problem, it's a problem, it's a problem. That's part of a narrative as well, isn't it? Let's bring in the teams talking to race control, because we always used to see this under Charlie Whiting, didn't we? The teams, wait there, Crofty, we've got the teams complaining to Charlie here. Oh no, let's introduce that. Let's Charlie's now gone, everybody. Charlie's now gone. We've replaced him with the puppet. Now let's introduce this dynamic to add more drama to the show. The teams are remonstrating with the referee. What does the referee do? Sends them off using a red card. Not in Formula One. No. The referee has to explain himself and he's under pressure. Oh, this is all part of the dynamic, isn't it? Of Formula One. The formula.
But this is a result of Brazil with the FIA not clamping down on these things. When you start to leave interpretation into it rather than a hard and fast rule, you get situations confusing.
Yes, when you get interpretation, it's confusing. And the Judicial Conduct Investigations Office, they're unable to investigate the interpretation of a judge. Okay, that's the manner in which a judge has interpreted a situation isn't a judge's conduct. no, that's just their interpretation of the law, everybody.
Situations that would have been clear-cut in the past decisions.
On board with Charles Leclerc.
No, nothing's clear-cut in the industry of manipulation. Nothing is clear-cut. Despite facts, despite evidence, despite it being obvious what has happened, nothing's clear-cut. When a judge has to decide, I mean, you or I can look at a situation and go, that's clearly what happened. But if you ask a judge to judge it, oh, nobody knows what he's going to decide has happened. Such is the nature of the judiciary. That's legal. Don't you go worrying your little head. In fact, if you've got enough money to buy a fancy lawyer, then the fancy lawyer can convince the judge to make a decision that's going to benefit whoever's paid the fancy lawyer to make that presentation to the judge. That's justice, apparently. That's called corruption and manipulation, but that's the British legal system, a construct which has been copied by the show of Formula One.
Is currently running 6, but while we watch from the cockpit of the Ferrari, let's head down to the Red Bull pit wall. Christian Horner is with us. Christian, please, your reaction.
I thought we were getting back on with the racing. I mean, we've already had Jonathan Wheatley. Right, This is the radio message of Red Bull not being happy. This is the Red Bull message of Giampiero Lambiase not being very happy. This is Christian Horner not being very happy. What lap we on now, lads? Victim Israel Verstappen. What lap?
Action by the
lap 6 now. I thought you told us we'd get back on with the racing on. What were you, lap 3? We're on lap 6. What's going on? I mean, I don't remember at the British Grand Prix when Max maintained that advantage by going off the track. I didn't remember us still talking about that on lap 6.
No action by the stewards.
We're a little bit shocked at that because apparently Lewis gave his advantage back, which we failed to see yet. So, you know, as you can imagine, we're not best pleased.
Is this what?
Well, you're expecting to see the advantage given back yet? Well, what's happening is they're in a motor race, Christian, and each one of those races, each one of those laps, Lewis has got his car around that track slightly faster than Max has got his car around that track, and therefore that gap is increasing. Right, that's the intention when you're racing your car. Right, so that gap's getting bigger because he was ahead, he's lapping faster, and the gap's growing. That's how it works. You'd have thought Christian would have realised that.
Goes around, comes around, Christian, with turn 4.
What goes around comes around, Christian. What are you on about, Martin?
Brazil and into some first corners in earlier race.
What goes around comes around. Well, Max has forced Lewis off the track at Brazil, doesn't get a penalty. Max has forced Lewis off and impacted his race at Saudi, doesn't get appropriate penalties. Max has forced Lewis off here at Abu Dhabi, doesn't get a penalty. What goes around? What's coming around, Martin? The perpetrator has perpetrated. Where's what's going around coming around, Martin? What are you on about?
No, it's a total lack of consistency. So,
Well, what is consistent is the perpetrator getting off with it, not being appropriately penalised. But Christian says that's a lack of consistency. No, it's consistent that Israel Verstappen is never punished for his crimes. But the gaslighter Horner is allowed to present that that's a lack of consistency.
Yeah, we're disappointed with it, but focus on the race now, and we've got to do it.
Yeah, let's focus on the race now.
Do it the hard way.
Christian, there will be a lot of people watching Formula One for the first time ever.
Yeah, they know this. You see, they realised that they've been able to sell this event as being, look, the season has gone down to the last lap of the season, last race of the season. Okay, these two title contenders are level on points. You couldn't make it up. You couldn't manufacture it to be that they're level on points, unless you don't give penalties to somebody affecting the points that they get and affecting that then manufactures it for them to be level on points. You can't just give one of them the victory of a Grand Prix that doesn't take place because it's just a parade in the wet that they lied to the world and pretended that was a Grand Prix victory to somebody. You can't make that. You did, but you've now sold this event. Look, our sporting season has now gone down to the climax. The two contenders are level on points going into the last race. You are going to see history being made. Either somebody will win their first championship, somebody will win their record-breaking 8th world title. the jewel in the desert of Abu Dhabi. Tune into this. We were managed to able to sell that product, weren't we? You know, the marketing experts of the show were able to sell the product using their marketing skills, using their strategies to attract the biggest ever audience. And it'd be nice if you keep that audience, because that grows the value of your show and benefits everybody involved in all of the teams, doesn't it? It'd be good if this sporting event, people come away from it having been entertained and excited, and will then make them inspired to carry on watching it in future seasons. It might be the first ever time they've watched the show of Formula One, and if they like it, they'll remain, and that would be worth billions to us all, won't it, Crofty?
Wanted with it, but focus on the race now, and we've got to do it the hard way.
Christian, there will be a lot of people watching Formula One for the first time ever. When they're presented with a no action for one incident, no action for another, they'll find it hard to believe that's a total lack.
Well, if it's the first time ever, they won't have known what happened in Brazil. They won't have known what happened in Saudi. They won't have known what happened in Belgium. They won't have known what happened in France. They won't have known what happened in Silverstone. They won't have known what happened in Imola. They won't have known what happened at Monza twice. They won't have known what happened at Barcelona. All of them situations Max Verstappen was the beneficiary of. They won't have known that. They've just seen this one event, Crofty.
Of consistency.
Well, the race director made it very clear before the race that you had to stay within the white lines. Max did that. Lewis gained an advantage by going off.
You had to stay within the white lines. What about Bahrain? Lewis didn't stay within the white lines. They were applying a different set of criteria there that all drivers were aware of, applied uniformly to all competitors, and yet again Israel Verstappen was a victim of that. Look at the way they skew the narrative to incite the fanboy.
Track, he didn't concede it. He didn't give anything back, so that was our position. But anyway,
our position as Red Bull, the victims, are that our driver wasn't guilty of the infringement of crowding the other car off the track. Says somebody who has got a vested interest in trying to project their competitor, their person, as being innocent of wrongdoing. That's a liar. That's somebody who is distorting the truth of what actually happened, presenting themselves as being the victim of a situation when they were the perpetrator. That is the level of individual that Christian Horner is. Absolute scum of mankind. Absolute scum of mankind.
We're focused on the race, and still a long way to go.
Christian, thanks.
Still a long way to go, lads. Still a long way to go, because remember, we played the clever cards.
Ever so much for joining us. We appreciate your instant reaction.
But we're back on with the race. Thankfully, what lap we're on? We're now back on with the race.
That's
lap 7. We're back on with the race, so we can forget that first lap incident. Forget the first lap incident. We're on lap 7 now. We're back on with the race. Back to the race now.
While we were talking to Christian, we saw Sebastian Vettel and Lance Stroll having a race all by themselves. 14th for Vettel, 15th for Stroll.
Go ahead,
Michael. We still don't understand it. That was
I thought, back on with the race. Jonathan still doesn't understand it.
hard, aggressive pass by Max, but Max stayed fully on the track, and he was
a hard, aggressive, elbows out, argy-bargy, uncompromising pass. No, it's not allowed. Do you want to explain to people? Crofty, you know these people that are new to the sport and don't understand the sport. Do you want to explain to them how this works? Oh, it's confusing. It's confusing, says Crofty. Don't worry. Okay, don't worry about whether you understand it or not. Just, it's confusing for us all. Oh, so you want me to buy something that's just confusing? Okay, you don't want to explain it to me, what it is I'm buying here. No, it's confusing. Don't just sign there and give me your money. It's confusing. Don't you read it? Oh, that's how you get scammed. Kids, don't fall for that shit, right? If people can't explain to you clearly what it is you're buying, then they're scamming you. All right? Don't fall for that shit. It's confusing. It's confusing.
ahead at the apex. He did everything right. He stayed on the track.
it's ahead at the apex, ahead at the apex, Verstappen rules, ahead at the apex. Do you want to take us through the criteria, not the bullshit guidelines that have been devised to enable Max Verstappen? I'm talking about the FIA set of international sporting code, not the sporting regulations. That's how the sport is carried out, how the events are carried out. The international sporting code is the code of conduct for those competing within there, and it's got the driving standards in it. That's how they assess the manoeuvres, the style of infringements taking place out on the track between drivers as to how they are driving that race. That's how they determine it. There's not the word mention of apex in there. So why are we presenting on the media the notion of apex and that being an assessment criteria?
At some point, the second car...
And you see, also what they're presenting here is something that's entirely wrong, which is these teams are protesting to the wrong person, right? Now, what you're doing, if you are... imagine the game of football, all right? At a game of football, the referee can't be in charge of stadium security, ensuring that the grass is mown, there's no glass on the pitch, there's no debris on the pitch that's going to injure the players if they go for a sliding tackle and have their leg gashed open because there's a sharp object on the pitch. The stadium is fit for purpose. It's got everything appropriate for all the fans to be there in a safe environment, appropriately stewarded, and should anything take place during that event, the way that it's done protects the safety of the players and the crowds and everybody involved in the race. The ref can't do all of that, right? Ahead of that happening, you've got people that are employed to mow the grass, to make sure the pitch is playable, fit for purpose, make sure that the appropriate stewarding is in place for crowd control, the safety of people, the safety of the players. Okay, that's what the race director's doing, right? Those that are refereeing the on-pitch decisions, they're the stewards. Difference of role, right? Why is Christian having this conversation with the guy that is overseeing that event and ensuring that it is safe and carried out in accordance with the sporting regulations, rather than onto the stewards who are making the refereeing decisions? But this show doesn't want to tell you that. It doesn't want to explain that this is just a facade. This is bullshit. If you have this kind of problem, the people that will make the decision are the stewards. It's not the race director, because the race director, his role is to be looking at this, seeing if there's any problem. Is there an incident? Is there a problem on the track which I need to deal with to ensure the safety here? And if I am required to do that, what are the regulations that I am bound by in dealing with that? What are the conventions that we have to adhere to when we have to intervene on the grounds of safety? That is all the race director has to do. That is what his job is. Any offences that take place between these drivers, bashing each other, crashing, pushing each other off the track, that's not the race director's job, that's the steward's job. Why are we getting these messages through where the people are on to the race director? It's the wrong guy. But the new audience don't understand, it's confusing. Don't you worry your little head.
Has to back out.
Jonathan, the stewards have reviewed it and determined that all of the lasting advantage was gained, and...
You see, race control can just turn this off. I ain't listened to that bullshit. My job is not to listen to you whining. My job is to oversee this event, ensuring its safety. I'm going to focus on my job, not entertain this bullshit. But F1 TV won't show you that. Sky Sport won't tell you that. This is all part of the construct of the show. How does it make you feel? Oh, the marketing people, they know how it makes you feel. That's why they introduced it as part of the construct of the show.
That Max forced that position there, so they've said that they have reviewed it but are not investigating it.
Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton.
Meanwhile, we're back on with the race, okay? So I know it's been a long time, and like Silverstone, what we did see was on lap 7, I'm still talking about that Max Verstappen incident where he forced another car off the track on lap 1. Okay, well, was able to maintain his position by going too fast into a corner. That, you know, Max Verstappen was the infringer there. Lewis Hamilton was a victim in it, but they're still talking about this incident on lap 7 here. But at least we can get back on with the race.
Out in front from Verstappen, Perez, Sainz, Norris, Leclerc, Tsunoda, Bottas, Ocon and Ricciardo. We've got 3 world champions with us on Sky Sports F1 this weekend. Damon Hill, Jenson Button and Nico Rosberg. Nico, what's the champions' view?
Oh my goodness, so difficult. I think it's okay what they've done.
I thought we were still getting on with the race. Are we still going back to lap 1?
Max was a little bit too lungy and too aggressive, forcing Lewis out too strongly, even though he had the right to the corner there because he was massively ahead, you know, but still. And then.
So we've got a former manufactured world champion. Press the red button, somebody's engine goes boom. So got Rosberg, former world champion. What's your opinion? Let us know what you think in the comments section, Rosberg. Oh, he was entitled to the... No, he wasn't. Do you not know the rules of engagement and what determines somebody's entitlement? No, we've got to comply with narrative, says Rosberg.
I would also say, though, that Lewis didn't give...
The expert presents it this way, kids. It's confusing, but listen to the expert.
Back everything that he gained. So there's like, oh, it's tough, but I think it's okay like this.
Yeah, I tend to agree with what Nico said. I think when you look at it back, you know, you have to say that Lewis had to basically move out of the way because otherwise he's going to collide with Max, who made a very uncompromising, very late lunge, which left no room for Lewis to make any accommodation. He had to leave the track. But I have to say, I am surprised they didn't say, give the place back, because...
What do you mean, give the place back, Damon? So you've just explained it correctly by saying, yeah, you've not left him track room, but you're surprised for how Max didn't gain that place legally. So if you've not gained it legally, you haven't got it. So what are you giving back? What are you on about? Oh, this is another former world champion, Damon Hill, the expert.
You know...
Yeah, totally. I actually agree with you, Damon. It was a very late lunge, but it was always going to happen. Lewis knew he was coming, and he pushed Lewis off the track, I guess, but he stayed on the track. And I'm struggling to understand the regulations right now because obviously in Brazil there was no penalty, but they both drove off the circuit.
Another world champion, Damon Hill, struggling to understand the regulations right now. All these 3 experts, 3 former world champions, they don't know the regulations of the sport. It's confusing everybody.
He pushed Lewis off the track, I guess, but...
Yeah, you guessed. You don't need to guess that, Jensen. All right? You don't need to guess that. You can just look at the replays and that's a statement of fact. Left him no track room. Had he have been in the location that his natural momentum of his car would have been in, that his car would have been entitled to, that should have been in, had he not taken an evasive manoeuvre to deviate his car from being what it would have naturally been in and entitled to, there would have been a crash. So it's no guesswork. That's what happened.
He stayed on the track, and I'm struggling to understand the regulations right now because obviously in Brazil there was no penalty, but they both drove off the circuit, whereas Max stayed on the track this time.
Gentlemen, thanks ever so much. I think Jos Verstappen's also struggling to come to terms with this. He just walked out the back of the Red Bull garage as Hamilton continues.
The victim's dad can't come to terms with it either.
Then on lap 8 in the lead of this race, we've had a big controversial moment, and we'll be talking about this, I'm sure, for a long time to come.
Big controversial moment there, and we'll be talking about that for a long time to come. There's controversy. Will there be any more controversy, anybody? Oh, stay tuned. Nobody knows.
Yeah, let's park that for now. What's interesting here is Lewis Hamilton actually has a little bit more pace as well, despite Verstappen being on the softer tyres. We thought they might be a little bit faster for half a dozen, 10 laps or so, but at the moment that doesn't seem to be the case, unless Max is just trying to eke them out, because Sergio Perez...
The Red Bull car is slower, but it might be because Max is doing the right thing here. Oh dear me. Trying to press play, and it seems to...
Perez is hanging on to them as well. 5 seconds covers the top 3, and now the strategists for both teams will be thinking long and hard, and how quickly. It's about 23 seconds to make a pit stop, but right now anybody who stopped, for example, that put them down in 11th place, so they've got to get a lot further into this race yet before they can think about pitting.
Well, this is absolutely right there, Martin. Now, the strategists from both sides, you know, Hamilton's strategist Bono, yeah, you want to make sure that you get at least 23 seconds ahead of Perez before you pit if you can, knowing that he's got to pit first because he's on soft compounder tyres here. You want to really ideally make sure he pits first, and then you pit and you don't risk coming out behind him and him impacting your race. Have a think about that one, Bono. Have a think about that one. But that's Act 2, Scene 2, or whatever we do in these constructed plays that they make. All right, that was Act 1, Scene 1 of Abu Dhabi 2021. It was all a construct. Now, if you try and say to people the whole thing had been contrived, they won't believe it. And it's understandable. You cannot play out a 58-lap race with a perfect script. There is this degree of it is a unfolding sport with chaos in it. You know, you can't say that these cars aren't going to necessarily be involved in a collision, and what unfolds. Agreed. But what you can do, you can have certain agendas and narratives, and certain things can be contrived to play out a certain way. It's a known thing, the safety car dynamic. It's a known thing that a crashed car on track causes the deployment of a safety car. It's a known thing that the field then bunches, all the advantages are wiped out, and then it resets the race. That's a known thing. So if you have a late crash and everything can get cleared up in time, that can set up late drama in a race. That's a known thing. Is it possible to manufacture that? Of course it is. What is their motive to do so? Does that set up something that's extremely exciting? Were the rules broken? Well, could they have carried that out without having to break the rules? Yes, they could, up until the point where that clear-up operation took longer than what would be normal because of the fire, because of the car catching fire. That then took the extra time, meaning that these mandatory procedures that they lie about couldn't take place. So they then broke the rules to set up that last lap shootout that benefited the show. The most dramatic thing that people have ever seen. They'll be back watching this, won't they? Even if we have to break the rules to make that happen. People won't know because we won't tell them. But we'll keep creaming in the billions out of it. Doesn't matter that there's the notion of injustice. Oh, it's only sporting injustice. People don't care. Move on already. It's not life or death, no, but it is a key example of injustice that takes place in this world that none of us should be the victim of. It's a key example of the contrivance. It's a key example of the dynamics that impact our life. The media lying to us to make us believe things a certain way, which benefit the billionaire class that are exploiting us by being able to extract money by exploiting us without consequence. There are rules that should prevent them from doing that. But those people that are there to apply the rules aren't applying the rules because they've all been bought off. The notion of regulatory bodies and a consequence system, it only is now serving those with wealth. Money gives them the power to influence all of the checks and measures so that those checks and measures don't apply to those people now doing the exploiting. That's what's happening in this world. That's what they did at Abu Dhabi. They fixed it. All of those checks and measures, such as then the appeal mechanism to the judge, well, that was all done corruptly. The media being a form of checks and measures by exposing the reality, making people aware of reality, and that pressure alone of people being able to see exactly what is wrong, and therefore it being obvious there's some sort of corruption going on here, and therefore there needing to be consequence for that corruption. Oh no, media don't do that. Media just serve the narrative. Media try and pretend that they don't know. Nobody knows. It's okay, everybody. Don't worry about this. Don't worry, your little heads. We're the media. We're owned by billionaires, so we just serve the billionaire agenda. We don't serve truth. We don't serve truth. We're just the billionaire-owned media who is here to condition you with the agenda of those who are benefiting through exploitation. That's what media is. And we've got the billionaire pretending to be the victim, Toto, who was part of the orchestration of this. Oh, he's now a victim. Oh, we can't take this to court because they're marking their own homework. Well, there is that, Toto. But again, you also had the ability, rather than make that video of you in your black polo neck, you could be making this video that I'm making now, where you're exposing it to the people, exposing everything to the people about this corrupt construct. But if you did that, then you'd no longer be the billionaire that you are. So you're not going to do that, are you? You'll just tell it the way you're going to tell it, claiming that you're the victim, but still being a billionaire about it. Because we've all got our aligned agendas, haven't we, Toto? And no form of media has been able to tell the truth since. I mean, it's gradually filtering through. Andrew Benson in his Q&A session is now starting to explain to people why the rules need to be the rules. 5 years later, he's finally revealing, oh, yeah, well, we do need to do this unlapping procedure because it does affect people's races. Well done, Andrew. Well done. Rat Boy Davidson's finally going, yeah, well, you see, when the safety car's put out, this car that's now in front of the safety car, it disappears. Oh, Rat Boy, he's tentatively explaining to people what the rules are. Why is it you couldn't do that 5 years ago, lads? Oh, because you're all serving agenda. And then social media, those people that are outraged on social media trying to explain it. Oh, the mystery formula. Oh, that information doesn't get through. Anyway, like I say, that was Act 1, Scene 1, Abu Dhabi 2021. What was also involved, and like I say, people won't believe it, but the tyre strategy of the pit stops, the Mexican Minister of Defense, the virtual safety car where Giovinazzi could have easily pulled off into some side service roads, but he pulled off in a location which was the perfect location for the virtual safety car that enabled that tyre change, and it just added that extra dimension into it. What jeopardy? Oh, what's going to happen now? Oh, what's going to happen now? Fresher tyres. What we will see. Then we've got the tyre twist of the slow puncture. Oh, what's going to happen now? What are we going to see? Just after Christian had appealed to help from the racing gods. Then we've got the Latifi crash. These things, you tell me what's organic. You're telling me that people can't be scripted to do some of these things? Right, Antonio, about now. That'll do you. About that point in the race. That engine, yeah, needs to go. Strat mode. Select strat mode. Yeah. And once you've selected that strat mode, about a minute later, your engine ain't going to work properly. Funny that, isn't it? You couldn't make that up either. You couldn't make that up. Thank you for your time. Lots more to come, because there's so many examples at Silverstone where we can go through them and make the comparisons. And for those of you that are willing to sit through this length of video, hopefully you're starting to see what's really going on in this world. Thanks for your time.